What up, what up? This is Ray Grand, your host, and you're listening to The Ray Grand Show, where we talk about redefining a disability and overcoming. I've been paralyzed from 22 years from bacterial spinal meningitis. I know a few things. That's right. Thank you for listening, and let's get to it. Good day, people. This is the Ray Grand Show, and we have a special guest, Jose Inspires, aka also known as Jose Flores, international speaker, author. Don't let your struggles be your standard. He is the man. He's been all over the world, inspiring the world. Les Brown is his mentor. He's been also featured with Grant Cardone, like 10X Conference. This is Jose Inspires, and I want you guys to understand that Jose's been a great inspiration to me and a motivator, and I've been watching him for a while, and we're going to get to know him and know about his story and understand what it's like to live with a disability. And we're going to gain some insight into Jose's mind, because he's called the Mind Disruptor. Jose, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing amazing, my brother. Thank you for having me on, man. I'm excited to share with you and your audience.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So Jose, walk me through the process of becoming disabled. Because I've been paralyzed at 14, and it was a struggle for me to even say that word, disabled. I'm like, disabled? I don't have a disability. I'm not disabled. and I went through that process, and it wasn't easy to say, okay, I'm living with a disability. This thing is real. So help me understand how your process looked like to say that you had a disability, or if you still don't identify with a disability. Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, man, absolutely, man. So, when I was younger, when I was a baby, actually, my mom and all my family, they used to be like, oh, look at him. He's so cute. He walks like a little tough guy. And so I had like this little tough guy walk to the way I walked. And everybody thought it was cute for a while and laughed. And then after a while, my mom noticed that the little walk wasn't going away. So she took me to the doctors, and at 2.5 years old, almost 3 years old, they did a muscle biopsy on my right leg, and they found out, then they diagnosed me with muscular dystrophy, which is it's a rare neuromuscular condition that's actually called spinal muscular atrophy. So muscular dystrophy has like 42 different types of muscle weakening diseases under that umbrella.
Wow.
So mine is called spinal muscular atrophy. There's 4 types of what I have. The first 2 types are deadly. The first type, you die like within a couple months. Second type, you die probably around 10, 12 years old. And third and fourth type, there's no life-threatening issues with that, because it doesn't affect your vital organs. So when you have type 1 and 2, the muscles that sustain your organs, like your heart pumping and your lungs from expanding and contracting, they stop working, so you die from suffocation with type 1 and 2. So, but at the time, they didn't know that there was different types. They just knew that it was spinal muscular atrophy. Later on, they wound up figuring out that I had type 3, which the doctor said that by the age of 15, I was going to end up in a wheelchair. They weren't even expecting me to live past my teenage years, because, again, everyone who got diagnosed with this was either dead in a couple months or dead, around between 10 and 13 years old. And so as the years went by and I'm still alive, they're like, okay, we got to look into this further. So, they were looking into it with different patients all across the nation. And they finally figured that there was 4 different types of this condition. And so, I knew I had it in me from a young age, but when I was younger, I was still able to walk and run. I rode bike. I used to skateboard. I used to climb trees. I used to throw rocks. I lived a normal.
He climbed trees, people. He climbed trees.
Yeah, man. I lived because I was born and raised in the Bronx, but we used to go upstate New York to visit family.
Okay.
And, that's like the boondocks where the woods were. So we were always in the woods trying to make tree houses and whatnot. But I had a great childhood, you know what I mean? And it really wasn't until like 8th grade when I was finishing middle school, going into high school, that I started feeling a slight difference in my mobility.
Okay.
Nothing significant, nothing like dramatic, but I just felt something different in my body. Like I felt like something wasn't right.
So
And go ahead.
yeah, so if I'm understanding correctly, so when so you said that at eighth grade, and then the disability came around 22, correct? I believe you fell, and then you wasn't able to get up and walk. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, so by the end of high school, in my early 20s, that's when my body really started taking a shift. And when I was 22 years old, I moved from New York to Florida, and I was walking from. At that time, I used to use like a little motorized scooter because my leg would give out. If I was to stand or walk for too long, my leg would just give out. So at that time,
What age was this?
this was at 22.
Oh, 22, 22.
Yes, this was at 22. So I was still able to walk at 22, but I could only walk short distances before my leg would get like weak and give out. So I used to fall a lot. You know what I mean? Like in high school and after high school, I have an amazing story in my book. And I'll just share it real quick, man, like about how powerful the mind is. When I was graduating high school, you know, um, there was a hill going down, and we were graduating in the back football field, and there was a hill to go down the football field. So at that time, my leg would already give out on me at random times. So if there was like a rock on the floor, if there was anything that would throw me off balance, my leg would give out and I'd fall like a sack of potatoes on the floor.
Wow.
So, graduation day, I'm excited. I'm getting dressed at the house, putting on my cap and gown, but I'm telling myself, dang, I hope I don't fall today, man, in front of all these people. There's going to be thousands of people. I hope I don't fall. I was like, God, please don't let me fall today. I would fall at random moments, and I was like, God, please don't let today be the day, man. Don't let today be the day. And I just kept on telling myself that. And as I'm walking down the hill to the football field, I'm taking it easy, like taking it like step by step, making sure my balance is on point. And I get to the bottom of the hill, and I'm like, whoo, yes, I made it. Thank you, Jesus, I made it. And you know how you line up and they start calling you name by name. So they call my name, Jose Flores. So I start walking. Yo, right when I get in front of the stage, dude, my leg gives out and I fall on the floor in front of thousands of people, bro. And you can literally hear like the whole place go, oh, and then it went silent, bro. And I'm on the floor.
This is deep. This is real deep. So would you say you were fighting a disability before you had a disability? Almost?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because like I said, when I was in middle school, I felt my body, a little different. And I used to fight a lot too because I'm from the Bronx, so it's tough already. And I had this little tough guy walk, so people used to try me thinking that I was trying to be hard or be this tough guy, but they didn't really understand that I had this condition that I was born with. And so I was always having to defend myself, and I was I was fighting the disability before it actually really, really manifested itself in my life.
Wow, that
Yeah.
is phenomenal. So your mind was building stamina before you actually became completely in a wheelchair. So can you explain the disability itself? So are you paralyzed? Do you have sensation? Are you
Yeah.
able to
So
move your legs, your function, bathroom, etc.?
yeah, absolutely. So I'm still able to feel 100% of my entire body. I'm still able to move 100% of my entire body. Um, it's just weak. It's just weak. Like I can't lift my leg up, but I can wiggle my toes. I can shake my legs. I can shake my ankles. That's one of the things that, for those of you that are listening, you may have heard that a lot of people in wheelchairs, they suffer from blood clots and pressure sores and things like that. And I'm just thank God that I don't suffer from any of that because of the fact that I'm still able to wiggle my toes and move a little bit. That prevents me from getting blood clots and pressure sores. So that's a plus right there because I know a lot of people who suffer from that. And but yeah, I go to the bathroom on my own, do number one, do number two, everything works fine with that as well. But now if I have to go from my wheelchair to the toilet to do number two, then I do need like somebody to lift me up and put me on the toilet. But in my house, I have a machine that lifts me up and puts me on on the toilet to do my thing. But if it's number one, I just do my own thing.
Wow. Wow, I never knew that. We're getting deep in here. We're getting deep. So tell me, what does the mind disruptor mean to you? Like, what is that to you? Because a lot of the times with me, the mind is the most powerful thing I have, and I feed it knowledge, and I feed it good things. So whatever I put in, I know pretty much that I have a good expectation of the outcome for what I put in. However, what is the mind disruptor to you, and how do you equate that to what you do every day?
Yeah, so the mindset disruptor, it's a powerful thing, and we can go real deep and talk a lot about this. But basically, what it is that when something happens to us in life, it disrupts it's a disruption in our life, right? It disrupts us. It disrupts our normal ways of living. It disrupts our normal ways of being. It disrupts our normal ways of thinking. And a lot of times people will get stuck in that disruption. So when this was happening to my body and it was disrupting the way I had to live, and the basic things that I was able to do, like just getting dressed on my own, or tying my shoe, or putting a shirt over my head and lifting my arms up to put the shirt on, it was a disruption. So for many years, I lived in that state of allowing this condition to disrupt my lifestyle, the way I was living. And so it wasn't until I actually started reading books and getting into motivational speaking and getting into the Word of God and really understanding, who I was and who I was in Christ, and just building my faith and really understanding who I was. Like, it was okay to be different. It's okay to be unique. It's okay to be, abnormal, right? And
Yeah.
so I started to coin myself the mindset disruptor, because instead of allowing this condition to disrupt me, I'm using my mind to disrupt the condition.
Ooh, say that again. Say that again.
So
That's good.
instead of allowing this condition to disrupt my life, I'm using my mind to disrupt the condition so that I can live my life to the fullest.
Wow. So instead of allowing the disability to disrupt my life, I use my mind to disrupt the disability.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's good. That's good. That's good. So do you? We need to. I'm gonna put the video in the link. There's a video of Jose that's super is inspirational, and like I literally I almost cried. Like I like that. It touched me so much. It motivated me so much watching that video. And it's his wife helping him get up in the morning. So I'm put the video. I'm gonna put the link in the description. You can watch it. So tell me a little bit about the assistance, um, a day to day with you, like getting help and going through your process, and your uh, just putting in your the day to day work that you do. Like, how does that look like?
Yeah, so normally we wake up like at 6:45 in the morning, and my wife, she has to get me dressed in the bed. And like he said, you guys will be able to check that video out, but she'll help me get dressed in the bed, and then she lifts me up like a bear hug, puts me in my wheelchair. Now, just to give your listeners a visual, I'm 6 foot tall, and my wife is 5'2", and I'm 160 pounds, and she's lifting me up every single morning, bear hug style, to put me in the wheelchair. So then once I'm in the wheelchair, I'm pretty independent because I can get around, I can move around, I'm already dressed, and I still have mobility in my arms, so I can still grab things and brush my teeth and eat and do things like that. But and I drive my own car as well, so I'm independent. I get to move around also on my own, which is a great blessing and a plus for me, because you know uh, independence is a big thing for anybody, right? So, but once I'm in the chair, man, I'm rocking and rolling, man. So I get my, after I do my thing in the bathroom and everything, I get up and I get into my word, get into the Word of God, and meditate. We pray together as a couple every morning, and then we get our day started. I'm checking some emails. I'm seeing who I need to contact, going through my list and seeing, because I always get my list for the day of the night before. I'm in the bed making notes, putting things on my calendar so that the day of, I'm just productive and executing and hitting all the bullet points. And And then, all my days are never the exact same because there's so much going on,
Yeah.
and I'm writing books, I'm writing articles for large publications, I'm closing speaking deals, I'm traveling, I'm networking, I'm, doing the podcast.
Yeah, these are all facts. Jose's resume is extensive, 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 extensive. Uh, Jose, so before we get to the international speaking author, the greatness of Jose Inspires, can you tell me what did it look like for Jose to get up out of bed before he got to the mind disrupting and this disruption was getting to his mind? Can we walk through that process? Because I know for me, it took me about 10 years to accept my disability. And it happened when I was at Oklahoma State University. I had a wheelchair basketball scholarship. And the night, I spent the night by myself in my dorm room. And I had this huge apartment because we had an apartment, scholarship, everything paid for. And then that night, I didn't go to sleep. It was just silence. And I woke up and I'm like, there was no furniture around. And I'm like, wow, I'm by myself. And then I had to furnish the apartment. And then one time I was meant to go do the laundry and I dropped the clothes on the floor. I said, wow, it just hit me. Oh my God, I'm in a wheelchair. And I do everything by myself. And I realized like I'm really in a wheelchair. So a lot of people sometimes they wouldn't understand. Like, what do you mean? You've been in a wheelchair 10 years. You haven't realized you was a wheelchair? No, because I was fighting it with my mind. I could do more. I could do more. And then just all of a sudden, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And, I went through depression. I saw a therapist. I read my Bible a lot more. I went through a process that wasn't necessarily pretty. It was ugly. It was dark. And it was something that if I didn't fight through, I probably wouldn't have come out of it. So can you
Yeah.
walk us through that process to get to where you at? Do you have a story or something that I could connect with?
Yeah, for me, it's a little different for me because, for you were good one day and then the next day you just got a sickness and ended up in a wheelchair. For me, with my condition, it's a very slow progressive condition. So it happens in phases, and it happens like every couple of years. There's no like pinpoint like, oh, in 2 years it happens or 3 years it happens. There's no way of telling when it's going to kick in, like the new phase.
Yeah.
So for me, it just started out real gradual. Like it started getting a little harder, just going from a stand up, sit down to a stand up position, like from a sofa or from a chair. I have to like really put some effort into it. Or going up and down the steps, like you go 1 foot after the other up the steps. I'd have to go like 1 foot at a time and use my stronger leg and my hand to kind of like push up and go up like that. Going down now was easy because going down there's no gravity. So going down the stairs was easy, but going up, anything that was going against gravity started to become difficult for me until I just could no longer do it. So for me, it was a constant learning how to adapt and adjust to the different phases that were coming my way because of this condition. So I not only had to adapt and adjust physically and figure out new ways to do things, but I had to adapt and adjust mentally to be able to endure the new level of decreased mobility that I had to withstand. So it was difficult for me too, man. I can definitely relate. Like there was some depression there. Nothing heavy, but there was some depression. It came in spurts. Like whenever something would happen to me, like man, I can't even begin to tell you how many times my leg gave out and I bust my head on a sink or the dresser and I split my eye open, split my head open. I gotta get stitches here, stitches there. And it's like when those type of things would happen, that's when I would really fall into like a little depression and just, why me, God? Why is this happening to me? Like you never gave me a chance at life. I was born like this. And I would go down that path of blaming everybody and anybody. And it made me rebellious against different things, and it made me angry and upset at different things. And it was tough, but man, only the strong survive, my brother, and I was like, man, I won't stop until I win. I got to keep pushing. There was always something inside of me, and I believe it was the Spirit of God even before I gave my life to Christ, because I grew up Catholic and I became born again at 15. But it wasn't really because I wanted to. It was because my mom, she wanted me to. So I went to a service with her and gave my life to Christ. But I believe, God knew us before, before we were in our mother's womb,
Absolutely.
So it just takes time for people to, recognize and understand what that whole situation looks like and is. And everybody's at different levels. But for me, I was rebellious, I was angry, I was upset, I was depressed, and I did some crazy things, here and there. And but for me, it took me a while too, man, to really accept the fact that I was in a wheelchair. I don't really like using the word disabled because it just makes you, it's just like a negative word, so I just always say condition, right? My condition.
That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah. So, you know, with the condition, it had to take its course, and I had to understand that. But it took me some time. Like I said, that's what I was going to say, is like, it took me about, I would say 8 years or so, 7, 8 years. Like, I knew I was in a wheelchair. I knew I had this condition. I knew I had this physical limitation or challenge, but I didn't want to accept it. Right. So when I ended up, when I fell at my mom's house, I had broke all the toes in my right foot, because I'm, like I said, I'm 6 foot tall. I fell straight down right on my foot like a sack of potatoes, broke the toes. And so, I couldn't walk or do anything for like 3 months. And what they say, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
And so for me, since my condition was already a muscle condition, when I wasn't walking at all for those 3 months, when I healed up and I tried to stand up, my leg just kept on buckling out from under me. So I was like, this is dangerous, because I can literally fall and bang my head against something, and then that's lights out for me.
Yeah.
So I started using a scooter, right? I started using one of those little 3-wheel scooters that you see at Walmart, but mine was really souped up. It was a red and black one with rims and all of that. So I thought I was pretty cool. But I
New
did
York,
that.
New York, Bronx, BX.
Yeah, but I did that because I didn't want to get into a wheelchair. I didn't want to accept the wheelchair yet.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't until, I went back to the workforce, and I got a job, because I was just sick and tired of living off the measly $850 disability check a month I was
Security,
getting.
yeah.
Yeah, so I went and got a job, and my mom used to take me back and forth, and I used to use a little scooter to get around, and it was all cool. Everybody was like, "Oh, look at you, you cute, you got a little hot rod, whatever." So it was a little fun thing. But then at some point, a couple of years passed, and I was like, man, my mom is getting old. She used to have to lift me up, put me in the car, lift me up, put me in the scooter. So it was getting a little hard for her. I was like, man, I got to figure something out. So I saw this lady getting out of a car in a wheelchair, kind of like how you do, Ray. So
Yeah.
she had upper body movement. She pulled her wheelchair out, and I saw the hand controls, and that was the first time I ever saw something like that. Because you don't see stuff like that in New York, really. So I saw that, and I was like, oh snap. So I approached the lady. I was like, oh, you drive on your own? She was like, yeah. And here I am stereotyping her like everybody does to us. And
Ah,
I'm like, because I was at the hospital. I was at an appointment to see my neurologist for an appointment, but I see her getting out the car too. So I'm automatically thinking, it was a proper assessment, right? Because I'm at the hospital, she's getting out the car at the hospital. I'm seeing my doctor. So I just automatically assumed she was there to see a doctor too. So I was like, oh, are you here to see a doctor? And she was like, no, I work here. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. And then that right there, that was a check for me, because I was like, man, look, here I am thinking she's like me, but she actually works here. So, it was a funny little, it was like one of those moments for me in life, like the aha moment, like, okay, yeah, so not everybody's not working, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So anyhow, I asked her, I was like, where did you get the, how do you drive? Where did you get that from? And all of that. So she gave me the information. I wound up calling, and then a couple months later, I wound up getting my own vehicle with hand controls and driving around, and that changed my life that put my life to a whole nother level as well. And not only for me, but for my family, because it takes teamwork to make the dream work. So now it was a little easier on my mom. She didn't have to wake up and go through the process and everything. And then with my wife, she didn't have to wake up and drive me places and all that. So it worked out for us, man.
That's good. Speaking of that, your wife, you have 2 boys, correct?
Yeah, we have 2 sons. Yep.
Yeah, so tell me about that situation when your son had to use a wheelchair and you had to watch your son temporarily in a wheelchair. Like, how did that feel as a dad?
Yeah, man, that was
'Cause I
that was
felt that
another.
moment when I was watching that. I was like, wow. He had to watch his son because your son got injured in football. Is this correct?
Yeah. So that was another defining moment for the both of us. We actually made the news with that one. We were actually on the news because of that. The news here in South Florida, they did a story on us. And but yeah, so my son, he was a senior in high school. He had scouts looking at him from different colleges. He had just come back from like a 26 city college tour to visit all these different colleges, and we were super excited. He came back home. He was playing a game against a rival team that they have down here in South Florida, and he wound up breaking his fibula in the game, and we took him to the hospital. He thought it was a sprain, but the next day he was in excruciating pain. We took him to the hospital. He had to get surgery. He got to get some rods put in to keep it together and everything. So yeah, he was in a manual wheelchair, and I would watch him and I was looking at him like, and one side of me was like, man, I felt bad for him, but another side of me was like, you know what? Maybe this is good for him, so he can really see how good he has it, and not be selfish and ungrateful for the abilities that he has. And so one day I was watching him. He was going into the fridge to get something, and he had his leg up, on top of the wheelchair. He had his leg lifted up, and he's fighting with the refrigerator, trying to get things out the refrigerator, putting it on his lap, and figuring out how he's going to turn the wheelchair around to be able to close the fridge, and he ain't have enough space, so he was banging against this and bang. So I'm just sitting back in the living room and I'm looking at him. I'm like, I want to see how he does this. I want to see how this all plays out. And I could see him getting frustrated, right, at the process. And so after he winds up closing the fridge and he's doing his thing, I go up to him and I'm like, yo, this wheelchair life ain't no joke, huh, son? And he was like, man, Dad, he was like, I have a whole nother level of respect for you, man. Having to deal with this. And I get emotional because it's like people don't really know, man, what we have to go through, right? You know what I'm saying? Like they see us and they see us smiling, and they see that we try to keep a positive attitude. But like you said, yesterday when you were on my podcast, it was like, people talk about different things, but we're actually living this, man.
Yes.
We live this day in and day out, and we don't let it stop us. We keep moving forward, and we try to strive for greatness and try to impact other people's lives, right? People will look at us maybe thinking like we're the ones who need motivation, and we're the ones who need to be inspired, and we're the ones who need help or a handout or whatever. And here we are being that for other people. And so, I told my son, I was like, hey son, you just be grateful that this is only temporary for you. In a couple more
Yeah.
months, you're going to heal up and you're going to be right back at it. And it was like, for me, in a couple of months, I'm going to have to still keep getting into this wheelchair and still having to get right back at it. So, it's like two different mindsets. Like one, you in a chair and it's temporary and you get right back at it. And then there's another one where I'm in a wheelchair and I'm going to stay in a wheelchair, but I still got to get back at it too. So I was trying to show him like, listen, no matter what happens in life, we got to move forward.
Yeah. So you touched on that. So what inspires or motivates Jose to inspire the world? How someone can get up and just get up out of bed. They have so much they already have, and they're taking it for granted. And we, in our condition, are working to inspire them. And it should be the other way around, but we're inspiring them and motivating them to go forward. And I know they book you to speak at these huge conferences and events, and um, highly high. What was the at one point? This is years ago. They said he was overlooked. Now he's overbooked, and now he's overbooked. They
Yeah,
they they
yeah,
they, they
yeah.
want to book him because he's motivating and inspiring people. So what motivates Jose to get up every morning to inspire the world? And why? Like why is Jose keep getting up? Why is that lion, that dog in Jose keeps getting up every day and it just doesn't stop? Because Jose's been speaking for years and I've been watching him for a long time. As everyone knows me, I've been speaking for over 10 years, if not more than that. Um, and and I've been in situations was like, wow, why am I really doing this? And I had to do some self-reflection and and learn and see what's the reason, what's my why. So what's that why? What's that why, Jose? What's that why?
For me, I have, well, the my why to just get up every morning is my family, my wife and my kids. But my other why is other people that are out there that I know are hurting and struggling and dealing with different situations. And if I can be that, if I can be that beacon of light and that little bit of inspiration to brighten up somebody's day and give a new perspective to somebody, then that's what I want to do. And it's like I said, this whole thing of me speaking and traveling the world and doing all these amazing things, it was a process for me, man. It was a process. It wasn't like I wasn't always like this. You know what I'm saying? I didn't always have this mindset. I wasn't always the mindset disruptor, right? But with time and growth and maturity and learning and growing and becoming more, you know, your 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 perspective and your view of life changes.
Yeah.
And so I step back and I look at the world and I'm like, man, the world is hurting, man. There's people out there that are not living to their full potential. There's people out there that have been through certain situations and circumstances and they just don't know how to deal with it and they feel stuck. And I know what that feels like. So I want to be that person that can come along you and alongside you and say, hey, I may not have gone through the exact same thing that you're going through, but I know what the process looks like. I know what the process looks like, and I want to help you through the process because it's a development. You have to be able to develop that mental toughness. You have to be able to develop that mental resilience. You have to be able to feed that lion that's inside all of us, right? Because we all have it, but sometimes we just don't feed it. So it's starving because we're feeding our fears. We're feeding, our belief system. We're feeding our doubts. We're feeding, the situation that happened to us, and we're making those things bigger instead of feeding that lion and letting that thing get bigger and come out and roar and go out into the world and do what only you know that you can do for other people. Because at the end of the day, man, we weren't put on this earth for us to just come here and enjoy everything. We were put on this earth to, yes, enjoy everything, but also to fellowship with one another, to help one another, to be in unison with one another. And when we see our brothers and sisters struggling, we're supposed to be the ones that come along and say, hey, you know what? I want to help you, or how can I help you? What can I do for you? Or maybe just share stories. That's why we all have stories. And the thing is that some stories are so dark that people don't want to share them, but you don't understand that by not sharing that, you're leaving somebody else in the dark.
Ooh.
And if you can share it, then you're being that light that can be a light to somebody else to bring them out of their darkness and into the light. So it's just this is part of the life cycle, man. And the more I get out there, the more I learn, the more I talk to people, the more I like to wow people with the way I think and, that outside of the box thinking, and just give them that new level of perspective, that's a higher level of perspective as I go out there and just continue to inspire millions of people.
Wow, that's amazing. So from what I'm hearing is it's not only a responsibility to share your story, it's a privilege as well. And it's also a perspective that somebody needs. Like your story is not for you, it's for somebody else.
Exactly.
And sharing is caring. And also you said about being a lion, and understand what lions are so quiet, but they're so powerful at the same time. You can see a lion just laying there. However, as soon as that lion sees some food and ready to go, it goes like 1,000 miles per hour to go get what it needs to get. Like you would say, you don't eat what you kill. What do you usually say? You don't.
Oh, I say you only eat what you kill.
You only eat what you kill, and it comes to a point where in someone's life, it's like, okay, what are you willing to die for, or to die to, I should say, to die to? Because I think we should die to ourselves to a degree. Like early when I was explaining, the old Ray had to die in order for this Ray to tell his story, in order for this Ray to start a podcast, order Ray to write a book. I had to die to the fears. That's what I meant to say. Die to the fears. Like you said, die to the fears, die to the
self-doubt
things that are not feeding your mind and feeding your soul and feeding your spirit. Yeah. So Jose, what would you say to to someone that is in a condition, or they would call it a disability, that is in a position where they haven't written their story, they haven't stepped out to become a speaker, or they haven't stepped out to live in their purpose, and they want to, and they see you already getting paid, traveling, writing books, hanging out with the celebrities, taking pictures, a wife and children, a house, driving, like we live in life. So what would you say to that person as a
Yeah, I
advice,
would
a
say,
nugget?
yeah, I would say to that person that, whatever your situation is, I want you to start conditioning your mind to think differently. Conditioning your mind to think differently. So, for example, for me, when I was going through my mindset shifting, I said to myself, I'm not going to let this wheelchair defeat me. I'm not going to let this wheelchair define me. And I'm not going to let this wheelchair dictate my destiny. So, whenever I put the word wheelchair in, what I want you to do is I want you to put your situation in there and your condition in there, or whatever your situation looks like. And I want you to say, this situation isn't going to defeat me. This situation isn't going to define me. And this situation isn't going to dictate my destiny. Because by you repeating that consistently every single day and even multiple times throughout the day, what you're doing is you're conditioning your mind to think differently. And what you're doing is you're reprogramming your subconscious mind to accept what you now want to think, and is that new way of thinking. So it's just like your brain is the mainframe, right? So sometimes when we get a virus, like on a computer, we got to clean it out. We got to reboot the computer, right? So sometimes we just have to reboot our minds. We have to reboot our brains and reprogram it so that we can start functioning at a higher level of capacity, or to our full capacity the way we're supposed to. Because sometimes when we get viruses, right, like a computer gets a virus, it slows down or it stops working altogether. And sometimes that's what happens to us. Like the different situation and circumstances that we have to deal with in life, they're like viruses, and they either slow us down or they stop us completely. But if we can reprogram that, clean it up, right? Clean the way we think, get rid of our stinking thinking, clean up the way that we're thinking, clean up the way that we're doing things, clean up the way that we're approaching things, that we're behaving, and then just put the new programming in, which says, I'm not going to let these things control me anymore. You're going to start to see a lot of light in your life, and you're going to start to see a lot of things change in your life for the good, for the better, for yourself and for others around you. And there's no other better feeling. Like people say, like, like there's like, I can't even explain it. Maybe you understand, Ray, because you speak too. But when I'm on a stage, the largest stage that I've ever spoken in front of was like 3,500 people. And when I'm on that stage and I'm doing my thing and I get off stage, and the countless people that come up to me and say, man, you said this and that resonated with me, or you said that and that got me thinking differently. There's no other better feeling to me. Like there's no other high out there that can make me feel like, man, I'm like really helping these people. Like I'm really helping these people to see things differently, to think differently, to move and act and do differently. Because at the end of the day, if I can do that and I can help somebody else transform or change what they're doing by the way they're thinking, man, that's just a win-win for me. And I'm all about winning, baby. And you know me, I won't stop until I
Till
win.
I win, which is his podcast. You got to check it out. All the links will be in the description. Man, you heard it from the man himself. Jose inspires. And I can definitely agree with you, that feeling of having that knowledge and having that insight and having that perspective, and most importantly, living that perspective. And people can actually draw from it and say, wow, he's living it. He's getting up out of bed every morning. He has his own business. He's doing it. The proof is in the pudding. The fruits are there. You can see it. And I feel the same way. And that motivates me, and it drives me to be like, wow, you telling me just my presence alone inspires you? Okay, let me step it up a notch. Let me
Yeah.
do this, and let me do this, and let me like you said, get rid of the stinking thinking, and replace with the thinking and growing, and actually disrupting the mind, and making it happen and allowing it to happen. Sometimes it's not making it happen. Sometimes it's just allowing things to flow with the ebbs and flows in life. So And thank you, Jose, for giving us for your time. We appreciate your knowledge, your nuggets. Like I said before, your inspiration to me, my wife. I'm very grateful for you and your life. We thank God for you. You know, gratitude, attitude of gratitude. As always, I thank the Lord Jesus Christ for giving me the insight and starting this podcast. And I thank you for being my guest. And where can people connect with Jose Inspires?
Yeah, so man, thank you for having me again, man. I appreciate it, man. I love what you're doing. I love your energy. I love your vibes, you know, and your wife too, man. She's holding you down. That's a big plus right there. And just the whole family, man, the kids, and you know, anybody that's listening right now, they want to get in touch with me, that want to book me, that want to just get more information about me, they can go to my website, which is joseinspires360.com. Everything is there. My business website, my podcast, all my social media links, everything you need to get in touch with me or to know about me is there. And then you can also follow me on all my social media, which is at Jose Inspires across the board. And what I want to do too, Ray, is I want to do something special for you and your listeners. If any of your listeners are listening, I want to give them a free gift, man. I want to give them a free gift. So if they're listening and they want to email me at joseinspires77@gmail.com and tell me that they heard me on your show, I'm going to go ahead and have my team send them a free gift, free digital download of one of the things that I produced and came and created. So I want to go ahead and bless your audience with that as well. So email me at joseinspires77@gmail.com. Tell me that you heard me on Ray Grand's podcast, and I'm going to go ahead and send you a free gift.
Rockstar Jose Inspires. God bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. If you guys love this video and love this podcast, please subscribe, comment, like, share this Mind Disruptor. This is the Ray Grand Show. Thank you for listening. We love you guys. God bless. Thanks for listening. If you like something that you heard, please leave a review. Oh, one more thing.
If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all.
Love y'all.